Hello, very good evening, everyone. I am Bhavna from Career 360, and I'll be coordinator for today's session. So, today we have uh, Mr. Chirag with us, and he will be giving us some insights on study MBBS abroad from our. Uh, and over here, we will be having all the discussions. Okay. And Mr. Chirag is India's top career coach for students planning for a career in medicine. He has been conferred the title of LinkedIn 2024 Top Career Counseling Voice. He has successfully guided over 50,000 plus students to choose their career with the right path. He has 15 plus years of experience in international medicine education domain working, and he has extensively traveled to the USA. And his students have successfully matched in residency and fellowship programs in USA. So he has delivered informative career planning in medicine sessions in more than 350 plus medical colleges across India, and he believes that he will pursue excellence and success will follow.
Thank you very much for this warm welcome, and welcome all the students who have joined in for this session. So today we are going to talk about what are the career options available in medicine abroad, and obviously why abroad. What should be the strategy? What are the new NMC regulations, and most importantly, how does one choose a medical college? What are those parameters? We'll be covering all of that in the next, half an hour or so. Right? Perfect. So I've been already introduced. Now let's move ahead. What is a career in medicine? Now this is very, very important for all of you students, okay, and parents who have joined this session. All of you, have given the NEET UG examination with an intent to, start a career in medicine. And many a times, this is something which, I believe needs to be informed and oriented very much in advance, and which is why I focus on this. It is a marathon, it's not some 100-meter sprint, or, just getting an admission into a med school is not your final achievement. It is the final career to be a specialist and working either in India or abroad is what you are looking at. So it is a long race, and which is why you need to plan accordingly. It is a 10-year story, okay? It's not just about 5.5 years, because ultimately it's the undergrad, postgrad, and then obviously your fellowships and things ahead. It is 100% self motivation project. Many a times I have seen students get inspired to become doctor, probably because of their parents or the community or their peers, friends. But when you are on this journey, once you are into the medical school, it is your sole responsibility to actually go through this process. Whether and face your basic medical science subjects, whether develop a bent towards medicinal clinical research, or ultimately look for a clinical career, you need to go through this journey on your own and identify your core interest, and ultimately look to work as a successful doctor. So I always advise the students, you have a choice, 10 years and lifetime. Okay, this is a very simple anomaly. Next 10 years, if you are going to work hard, you can enjoy your life afterwards. And vice versa, those who take these 10 years of the career, the bachelor's, the master's, and the initial years of your career, little lightly, later on, you'll have to work very hard to find your way. So this is very, very important for each one of you to keep in mind, whether you study medicine in India or abroad, to actually understand the journey, how long it is, and what all can come in this journey. All right. Now, let's talk about the new NMC regulations for MBBS abroad. Mind you, on 18th November 2021, the entire regulations or the way students used to study abroad, especially in medicine, has changed. So many of you might have your friends, family members, or somebody whom you know, acquaintances, who might have studied abroad in various countries. Okay, uh, whether it's the United States, Canada, Australia, Georgia, or Russia, Philippines, China. Now, obviously, NMC has come up with a new sort of rules. So just because your colleagues have studied abroad in some of the other countries does not mean those countries are now probably recognized or accredited by the National Medical Commission. So whenever you choose a country to pursue medicine, you need to keep these 4 5 points in mind, and only then you can actually plan and pursue a career in medicine abroad and come back and work in India. Mind you, if your intention is to study abroad and never come back to India, these regulations do not apply to you. But we are living in a globalized world. We are living in a VUCA world where things are changing at a very fast pace. And tomorrow, the way it happened in Ukraine, something comes up, and if you want to come back and work in India or study in India, then you need to follow the National Medical Commission regulations for MBBS abroad. Now, what are those regulations? The course duration should be minimum 54 months. Now, many countries like Philippines, US, Canada, who follow the American model of medical education, have the course only for 4 years, that is 48 months. So, at this point of time, as per the NMC regulations, these countries or these courses might not be recognized back here in India. Student must undergo a minimum 12 months of internship within the same foreign medical school. Now, you might have heard earlier from your seniors that when you go to study in China, after studying for 4.5 years, the 1 year internship you can do it back in India. Now that is no longer recognized. So if you study medicine in any med school abroad, the next 12 months of internship, the way it happens here in India, 4.5 years and then a 1 year of internship, the course should be replicated. And mind you, course duration should be minimum 54 months. So there are some countries which offer a 6 year program, that is perfectly fine. But addition to that, there should be a 12 months of internship within the same foreign medical institution. Third and the most important is language of instruction should be in English. Now, except for the United States, UK, and the Commonwealth nations, many European countries have med school courses either in the local language or they are dual programs, meaning partially in English, partially in their own language. So you need to be very, very careful, and which is why we need to check the NMC regulations. I'll show you how you can verify and identify whether the language of instruction is in English or not. And most importantly, you need to make sure that you are going to learn the local language any which way. The reason is because the medicine as a course is divided partially into basic medical science and the clinical sciences. Now, when you say clinical sciences, after 2.5 years, after you complete your NAT biochem, pathopharma, physio, the clinical years would mean you are interacting with the patients. And moment the patient interaction comes, you need to know the language of the patient. So the situation here is similar to somebody from, let's say, Delhi decides to study from a med school in Tamil Nadu or Kerala. He needs to know the local language. Only then can he interact, take down the patient history, and then communicate and do the clinical treatment, right? And which is why if you decide to, let's say, do a program in Russia or Germany or Georgia, you will have to learn the language irrespective. Even if the language of training in the med school is English, you need to know the language of your patient. But the NMC says for instruction, the teaching has to be in English. But as a tip, what I'm advising you from the perspective of real learning, you will have to pick up the local language. Most important is the fourth point. The language, is always sorted, but the FMGs must get unrestricted license to practice in the country where they pursue MBBS. So all this while, our erstwhile health minister, has also spoken about this in the parliament. That all this while there were many smaller countries, all these stans, Kyrgyzstans and Uzbekistans, and so many of them had such small programs, where universities were as good as coaching institutions, and it was they were just offering degrees. End of the day, when those students came back, many did not clear the license examination, and the challenge was that these students cannot even practice in those countries. So the government is very clear: if you want a license to practice in India, first complete your MBBS in whichever country you study and get a local license to practice. For example, in India, when you complete your course and let's say you decide to, let's say, practice in Maharashtra, then you need to submit your documents to the Maharashtra Medical Council or the Delhi Medical Council, Punjab Medical Council, and get yourself registered as a licensed doctor. Similarly, if you study abroad, the National Medical Commission India expects you to have a license to practice from a particular country where you do PG. Now, here again, the important advice which I gave you is about learning the local language. Many of these countries have these license exams in the local language. You know, whether you talk about Russia, Georgia, or for that matter, Germany, they all have the license exams in their local languages, and which is why you need to know the local language so that you can clear that exam and get an unrestricted license to practice, in that country. And finally, after you have completed these formalities, you have to come back and clear the foreign medical graduate examination, FMGE next examination here in India. Once you clear these examinations, after which you have to complete a 12-month of internship in NMC notified hospitals, after which you get a license to work in India and you can get registered with various state medical councils wherever you wish to practice. So these are rules which are very important, and one must definitely use them as a filter when you want to choose a country to study abroad or a college to study abroad, provided you want to come back and work in India. This is a very important criteria. All right. I hope this is clear. Obviously, if there are any questions, you can ping in, in a chat box, and we'll be answering them at the end of this session. Now, how does one choose a medical college? Let's say you decide on a country, let's say India or Russia, or for that matter, United States. How does one choose a medical college? So there is a step-by-step approach, and how this work we'll be discussing that. I can show it to you live as well. First of all, log in to wdoms.org. That is the World Directory of Med School. Many of these university marketing materials or the agency website you see will say WHO certified. WHO, World Health Organization, no longer certifies anything. They're all consolidated into World Directory of Medical School. So wdoms.org, that's the website, is where when you log in, find your med school. You might have heard about some med school by someone. Check your year of establishment. Mind you, med school is a long course, long commitment. Even in India, after 2014, the number of med schools have doubled. However, is the infrastructure ready? Because once you complete your basic medical science, which requires more of an academic block, the clinical years require a full-fledged hospital with patients walking in. So if you do not have that infrastructure ready, or if that one batch does not graduate, there are high chances of you not getting, the college not getting the NMC approvals, for that matter. So you have to, ideally, what we suggest as, a career counselors is always prefer a college which usually has around 15-20 years of experience. That is what we recommend as an option. All right. Now, step 4, check the language of instruction. On the world directory, they have clearly established what is the language of instruction, whether the teaching happens in English or in the local language. Step 5, length of program. If it is only 5 years, which means it does not meet the NMC criteria, avoid. You have to select minimum 54 months of the program. Check for sponsor notes and join the med schools which are approved by ECFMG USA. Now, what is that? We will understand one by one with a live example. Okay. So here I am logging into this portal called as World Directory of Med School, wdoms.org. Right. And whichever country and course you want to check out, you can just go. Let's say we will check for India, just giving you an ideal example, and let's say we put aims. Okay, search. So you have so many aims. Let's say we seek for aims in New Delhi. All right. So all India Med School, Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. Government institutions. So it's important here you come to know it is government or private. It is always advisable if you study abroad, choose as far as possible government med school. Year of instructions, how old the institution is, school website, contact information, program directive, language of instruction is in English, curriculum 5.5 years, no problem. Sponsor notes. It is approved by Canada and United States, which means all the major English speaking countries will allow you to do PG in those countries, which means whether you want to write the USMLEs or FLABs or AMCs or any exams to do PG in those countries, you will be allowed. Mind you, if this is not there, you will not be allowed to do PG abroad, and which means you are again stuck. Because in PG the competition is 10 times higher than what it is in MBBS. So it is important that we check. Now let's say we check a university, anywhere abroad. Let's say I'm just taking a random name. Okay, there's a university in Kazakhstan. As I said, all of these stans are, I don't know why, but very popular these days. But you have to be very careful. Public. Okay, so it's a government university. 2018. Okay, 2018 is when it had started. So fairly new college. As per our criteria, we would say avoid. At least a university having a 15 to 20 year of experience is a good university. Program details. How does the details of the program? 5 years and 6 years. Sponsor notes not approved by ECFMG or the Canadian board, meaning if you study in such med schools, you will never be allowed to do PG in good countries like US, Canada, where it is completely funded by the government. So you might want to avoid such institutions. So always it is important to check these criteria, okay? Whether it is India, whether it is abroad, it is important that you check this criteria, okay? There is a med school in Ahmedabad, government 2019, no problem, no problem, sponsor note approved, okay? However, there is a med school in Guyana, not approved. So it is important that you check all of these criteria before you apply for pursuing studying in this, any of the med schools. So World Directory is the only legitimate directory. Do not believe on hearsay or whatever an agent or anybody says to you. All right. As I said, we'll be taking up all the questions at the end, but as long as these criteria are fulfilled and the NMC regulations are fulfilled, you can go ahead and pursue your program in that country. Now, we will talk about the American medical education system and the European medical education system, just to give you a difference and understanding. So, a NEET UG candidate, deciding to go to the American med school system, whether it is US, Canada, Philippines, or the Caribbean med school, have to pursue something called as a BS program. Okay, a BS is like a bachelor's BSc degree program. And after completing this program, only and only then you can do your medicine, which is another 4-year program. Okay. Please understand at this point of time, due to the NMC regulations, those who decide to do follow US, Canada, Philippines, the American model, since this program is only 4 years, less than 54 months, you cannot practice in India. So technically, it's a one-way route. You can later on pursue PG in US, UK, and settle there. Now here there is one more important catch. What is that? That is something you need to understand very, very clearly. Since you are getting admitted into a BS program, in many of these countries, the admission for PG is then dependent on another exam similar to NEET. For example, in US and Canada, that is called as MCAT exam, or in Philippines, it is called as NMAT. Only if you pass these exams is when you can get into an MD program. So I see a lot of study abroad agents promising parents, okay, you want to study in US, medicine in US, give your SAT exam, give your ACT exam, and yes, get into the bachelor's program, give it the MCAT and get into it. Well, the selection rate of MCAT for international students for medicine is less than 5%. So those who are serious of doing bachelors of medicine, in United States, they rather do through the Caribbean pathway. But as I said, it's a one-way route. Caribbean programs are 2 plus 4, usually 4, 6 years. Some of them are 5.5 years. But please understand, these are standalone degrees. You go to that country and then later on do your residencies America and settle in America. You cannot come back in India. Same is with Philippines. The Indian Embassy Philippines clearly mentions that more than 600 students sit for the NMAT examinations and 20 to 25% of them pass, which means every student getting into a BS do not get into medicine. And in this process, the problem is that the agent, and I've already charged you more than 7 lakh rupees to spend through this Philippines pathway. So be very, very careful, because even right now, a lot of these agents are saying now Philippines follows the NMC guidelines. However, nothing of that sort is mentioned on their official government website of medical education in Philippines, which is called the CHED. So as long as the information is there on chat, do not believe anything, but definitely check the Indian Embassy Philippines website, where they mention to the students that these degrees at this point of time, however the media reports and however things have been floated by agents on paid sponsored communication at this point of time, these degrees are not recognized. So this is something which you everybody have to be very careful. So those following the American medical education system are the ones who are very clear that they want to just go outside India, pursue medicine and settle abroad. They cannot come back to India thanks to the NMC criteria. And the best pathway is usually the Caribbean pathway. However, Caribbean pathway, the cost of studying into the Caribbean mode and finally going to US is somewhere around 1.5 CR. Okay, and those who want to study the entire medicine program in United States, it's almost 4 plus 4, 8 years, and the cost is somewhere around 3 to 4 CR. Okay, but the Caribbean pathway, you are spending around 1.5 to 2 CR. That is 50% of the cost. However, still it is very, very expensive. So you might want to avoid that at this point of time. Okay. As I said, keep your questions coming in. I will be taking it all at the end of this session for sure. Now, let's talk about the European medical education system. Whether you study your MBBS in Russia, Georgia, Egypt, how does that work? Listen to me very, very carefully. Those who are NEET UG candidates, okay? If you do your MD program from Russia, Georgia, Egypt, many all of these stands, 6-year program. However, please understand, whichever country you choose, only if you have joined an NMC recognized program, you will be allowed to write the FMG exam. Otherwise, you have option to settle in US, UK, or in Europe or Middle East. If you really want to settle in India after pursuing PG, you have to join NMC recognized program, give your FMG next examination, practice in India after 1 year of internship. If you fail the FMG next examination, you cannot practice. Mind you, the pass rate of FMG next examination is 20% average for the last 10 years. So accordingly, choose your med school. Even at the NEET UG level, many of these stans, Kazakh, Kyrgyz, Uzbek, all of these stans will take you or give you admission even if you are NEET unqualified. Please understand, avoid joining any med school if you are NEET unqualified. And if you do so, you are for sure for a one-way route. You cannot ever come back and work in India. If you want to just cross verify, go on the National Medical Commission website. And last year, they have put about 900 students who went to study medicine, outside India, and they were NEET and qualified, and NMC put all of their names stating that if they come back to India, they will not be allowed to write this exam. So do not believe what your study abroad agent says. Take the decision as per the real criteria mentioned on the National Medical Commission website, and also Indian Embassy, which is trying to help and save students from careers which can get spoiled. Now we'll move ahead. If one wants to plan an international career, how does that work? Please understand, you need to start early. Many of these med schools get the admission cycle is faster. If you don't take decision now, it will be too late. Okay, keep your options open. Start when you join such international med school, start working on, in fact, nowadays, even in India, when people join a med school in India, they are preparing for competency based exams like the USMLE class, etc. Start working on your overall profile. Other than medicine, how much and what kind of research are you involved in? Let's say students who are studying in India for MBBS, they join the ICMR research project. During your clinical years, what all workshops are you part of? It is important that you engage yourself all round as a doctor. How many publications you have? What kind of paper presentations you have done in medical conferences? Because ultimately it is important that your focus should be more on clinical application over rote learning. This is something very, very important. Now comes the next and the most important point. In my conversation, I am talking a lot about PG. Why? Because this is the reality, my friends. June 14, 2023, there were 20 job openings for MBBS at GTB Hospital in Delhi, and more than 500 doctors turned up. What does that mean? Only MBBS, plain undergrad, does not have much of a value. You need to compulsorily pursue post graduation. Until and unless you're a specialized, it is going to be a big challenge, financially rewarding, considering the efforts and money you put in this journey. So if you want a greater ROI, you need to plan your budget. The pair special, this is especially for parents. Your budget should be undergrad, MBBS plus PG. No agent will tell you this. Real budget planning for medicine is UG plus PG. UG MBBS plus PG cost needs to be there with you. Why? Because competition in NEET PG is 10 times higher. Let's say in a med school in India, in a class of 100 students, okay, all of them pursuing MBBS, if they decide, okay, all of them want to do a medicine, MD medicine or a surgery, not possible. In a class of 100, maybe 10 can do a medicine, or let's say 5 can do a surgery, because the seats are lesser. So the real budget, if you are planning a private med school or a MBBS abroad, is UG plus PG. So if you are thinking a private med school in India, undergrad budget should be 1 crore, PG should be 2 crores. So ideally, INR 3 crores is what you spend in this journey. Unless you decide to, while you are studying a private med school or government med school in India, prepare for the USMLE exam, and pursue post graduation in America, then these, money you can save, because in United States the PG is free of cost, and whatever money you have invested, you get it as a cash back. So that is something a lot of students do. They do while they are doing undergraduation, they prepare for PG in America, which is funded by the US government, and you can completely recover the money you've invested in your undergraduation. Okay. All right. So now let's move ahead. Hence, always plan your medicine, medicine career right up to PG. Now, typically, who studies MBBS abroad? This is a usual case. There are LMLs, but usually NEET UG applicants who are unqualified to roughly around 550 marks. Now, this year, we don't know, due to the inflation, even 600 might not get into India. These are the students who think about studying abroad, meaning you don't have marks. Now, problem with unqualified, I told you very clearly, if you are unqualified, you will never be allowed to come back in India. Agents can mix and mince words and tell you if you do PG in US and then come back, you still will be allowed. No, sorry. If you are unqualified, you will never be allowed to give FMG exam. So be very, very careful in your decision. Budget between INR 15 lakhs to 50 lakhs. Usually, those who cannot afford an Indian private college. Okay. And those who are thinking for American system, yes, for them, Caribbean model, serves well, about 1.5 crore of fees, rather than an Indian private med school. But otherwise, it is not recommended. Or those who are not keen on considering alternative career. In fact, that is what I advise many of the students. If you are not getting into, let's say medicine in India or a legitimate country abroad, think about BDS, physio, and other allied health courses. During the next 2 days of this conference, you'll be exposed to a lot of these options. Explore all the career options. Pursuing medicine is not the end of the road. There are fantastic options available. Explore those as well. But otherwise, those who are fitting in this criteria are the ones who think about studying abroad. All right. But there are concerns with MBBS abroad. So before I take up your questions, I need to highlight those concerns. First, as I mentioned, NMC has prescribed the FMGL 2021 regulation to study abroad. If anybody has doubt, let's say whether somebody has suggested a college in Georgia, somebody has studied at a college in, let's say, Philippines, or let's say Russia, write an email. Write an official email to the NMC with the name of the college, the duration, and all the information. I'm sure you will get reply. Many of the students have in past sent the email, because agent can promise anything. In reality, things are different. So if you send the email to NMC, NMC says no, we will not accept. That's it. That it's a one-way route. So take your decision only after in consultation with NMC. Indian Embassy have shared issues faced by older students. I will show you how to check that as well. Every country has a different course structure. The rules which are there in India are not applicable universal. More than 50% of the colleges abroad teach in local languages. And for the last 10 years, the FMG pass rate has been less than 20%. Now, this is very, very important. I will quickly again go back and show you an example. As I said, many of these colleges teach in multiple languages. As you can see here, one of the college language of instruction, Russian and English. So it's a dual teaching. So you have to be very, very careful. Not all colleges completely teach you in English language. So inquire. Many of times they run two programs: Indian program, English program, and Russian program. Russian program are cheaper, so agent might place you there, and then you get stuck. So be very, very careful. Also, always check the guidelines of the country where you want to go. Let's say Indian Embassy guidelines, MBBS, Russia. Okay. And you will be able to see the rules and regulations which are mentioned by the Indian Embassy. Okay. Go ahead and check. Very, very important. Guidelines for Indian students studying in Russia. What are the notices, information, medium of instruction? The embassy says some institutes which claim dual medium course may not even have faculties to teach English even for the first 3 years. So be very, very careful. Most of the universities teach only 3 years in English. Rest of the teaching is in Russian. Indian embassy, they think good about you. Payment of fees. You should pay the fees only to directly to the medical college. A lot of these agents take the money and run away. There are number of complaints of contractor collecting money but not depositing the money to the university. This is again going to be very, very dicey. Russian institutes generally do not refund the fees even if a student want to leave the institution. So if the agent says teaching is in English, you come to know teaching is in Russian, you ask for refund, there is no refund. So be very, very careful. Immigration rules, living condition in Russia, all of these needs to be checked with the entire right sources. So the admission process involves agents and you need to be very careful about them. As you can see, the FMG pass rate for the last 10 years, average if you count is less than 20%, meaning out of 100 students going to study MBBS abroad, 15 to 20 come back and are allowed to practice in India. Rest 80 to 85 who fail the FMG examinations cannot work as a practicing doctor in India legally, in spite of spending 5.5 years, 6 years, 7 years, and 40, 50 lakh rupees. That is why choose the right college, choose the right country, and the right university. All right. Now, quickly, I will just talk about few of the frauds which are conducted and how you need to be careful about that. Overcharge extra fees than actual fee. There are agencies, you can check, these are all media reports where the case has been fined where the actual fees was X dollars, agencies charge more money. Fake admission letters. You cannot understand Russian, Georgian language. They will promise you admission. Once you land there is nothing. You have not got any admission. Don't give real picture of the FMG pass rate and spoil 6 years. These are official media stories. Promise teaching only in English, but that's not the reality. Why foreign medical graduates have to brace for a bitter pill? Times of India article. Don't submit fees. Consultancy ex-director book for pocketing money instead of depositing it in the account of the university. Promise to work in India even without qualifying NEET UG. NMC clearly says if you do not qualify NEET UG, we will not allow you. So be very, very careful. Now, before I take up the questions quickly, how we can help you as a part of the Career 360 team, we will be providing you under the MBBS Abroad Companion a medical almanac. We will be conducting unbiased webinars, doubt solving session. And in this entire journey, if you are part of the MBBS Abroad Companion, we'll provide you the entire pathway, admission procedures, NMC regulations, how can one choose a med school, how to process admission and deal with a university, how to save, obviously get saved from MBBS agents, advice on medical PG and license in different countries. So ultimately, the decision is absolutely yours. So be very, very careful. Choose your careers wisely. And obviously, now I am open to all the questions. So quickly, one by one, I can take up few questions which have been posted here, and then I can I'll take up more questions as well. All right. So with the current education scenarios, what all countries one should opt for? Now, this is a very tricky question at this point of time. All those countries whose course is more than 54 months have institution. Let's say you cannot just blanket it on country. Let's say, if I say, okay, you can opt for Russia, but the college in Russia which you are choosing, if that does not have a hospital where you can do internship, it will not be recognized. The college in Russia which you are teaching, if you are choosing, and if that does not have all 6 years of teaching in English, then you are stuck. So don't decide blanket on countries. Select the filters and ensure all the filters are taken care of. Okay? Is it worth to pursue an MBBS from a foreign country if I'm not getting admission in India? Only if you want to, kind of settle abroad is, something, let's say 80% interest is to settle abroad and 20% is to come back, then you should think about. But again, as I said, only countries which are, and the colleges which are NMC compliant. And again, not just because the agent writes it on the marketing pamphlet or a brochure, NMC approved. You need to write an email to NMC, the officials of NMC. You need to check the World Directory of Med School. You need to write to the official website. Now, mind you, this is another fraud which happens in many of the cases. If any university you want to check the official websites. Now, I will just show you an example. There was an institution which we checked earlier, right? Oriol, Russia, MBBS. There are so many websites, with the same name, okay? But as you can see this, for a student here in India, will feel, okay, this is the genuine website because that's the second website which is coming on social media. But is this the website of university? We don't know, because a lot of these agents create this website. So how can one find out what is the original one? Go to the World Directory and then click on school websites and in English. This is the original website and not the other one. So any emails, how to get admission, who is the concerned person, you can check from this particular website. So in the World Directory, whatever website is mentioned, only those are the real original websites. So do not get cheated by agents and their promises. Okay, be very, very careful about that. All right. Which country is best for Indian students? As I said, you have to decide on multiple criteria. First, the course length should be minimum 54 months. Many of the universities do meet this criteria in Russia. Second criteria you have to keep in mind, whether the teaching is in English. Okay. Third, the institution should have a hospital where you can do internship, and you are ready to write the license exam in Russian language, which will allow you to get a license to practice. Now that license exam will always be in Russian language. So you should be ready to learn Russian language. Okay. If you're choosing US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, all of these countries, as I said, if it is a 4.5, 4 year, 5 year course, it will not be recognized. Okay. Which, how much is the cost to study MBBS abroad? So what happens is the cost varies between around 20 to 40 lakhs when it comes to Russia, Uzbekistan, Georgia. It varies as low as 20 to 40 lakhs. If you go to Caribbean med schools, it can go as high as 1.5 crores and above. All right. Now, US and Canada, as I told you, the program is good. University of Ottawa, the program is good. But since it's a 4 year program, it does not meet the NMC criteria. That is the problem. Any program in US, also please mind you, any agent giving you admission gives you admission only for BS. Please understand, no Indian agent, and if they do commit, write it, ask them to write it on the stamp paper that yes, after completing 4 years of BS, I will guarantee get an admission in the University of Ottawa Faculty of Medicine. No, all of them will admit you for a BS program. Ask them to write it down on the stamp paper, they will run away. Okay. So any program in US and Canada is 4+ crore, and admission into the 4 year MD program, that is equivalent to MBBS in India, happens on the basis of MCAT examination. So MCAT, the competition, as I told you, is such that less than 5% of international students get admission. Okay. Is the MBBS study pattern different abroad than India? Well, globally, whether it is in India or Russia or, the teaching methodology more or less is similar. There is a basic medical science, there are clinical years. However, in many countries, unlike India, until your clinical years or until you have a license to practice, you directly do not get opportunity to interact much with a patient. In many of the cases, there are 3D virtual simulations or mannequins and not real patients. That is the biggest advantage one has, that if you get an admission in India, why prefer India? Just because of the sheer population. That is the biggest advantage we have. All right. I hope that is clear. Which is the best country with less fee and good exposure? Well, if that criteria and the NMC criteria are met and fulfilled at this point of time, it would be Russia. All right, but the geopolitical situations and issues which happened thanks to the Ukraine war, so you need to be careful about that. What is the tuition fee and scholarship options? Well, even if you get a scholarship for MBBS in USA, still it is going to be very, very expensive. Please understand, if you do anything in America, first 4 years of BS program, then you do 4 years of MD program. As I told you, if 100 international students are getting admission into this BS, 5%, meaning only 5 get into the medical school. So that 95 of them have a bachelor's of biotechnology or an engineering degree. Although the agent, while you have taken admission, had promised, what, it will happen, but it does not happen. That is the reality. Check the AAMC official website. This is the conversion ratio. All right. So yes, scholarships are there with Caribbean med schools, which offer program for 2 crores or 2.5 crores. Right now, many of them are offering 45, 50 lakhs of a scholarship, but still the cost will be in Caribbean around 1.5 crores to about 1.8 crores. Okay, anything less than that is seems to be, okay. MBBS cost in Italy is low. However, the IMAT examination is tough. Teaching is in Italian language. Many of them, many of the programs are both, I mean, English and Italian. So you have to be very, very careful in choosing the country. Okay, IMAT exam is not that easy. Okay, so be very, very careful. Can I practice in Canada after completing MBBS? Yes, absolutely. However, again, the same story, 4 years of, a bachelor's in Canada, then 4 years. This will cost you minimum 3.5 to 4 crores. Rather, spend 1 crore in MBBS in a private med school, spend 2 crores in a PG in a private med school, and save 1 crore in your bank account to start up your own setup in India. That would be far more cheaper, okay, rather than these options. So be very, very careful when you select those options, okay. So these are few things which you have to keep in mind. In spite of whatever the agent says, this has been the reality. So if you feel you like the option of considering Italy, whichever university has been recommended, check it on the World Directory website, email it to the NMC and check whether it is recognized or not. Because tomorrow, after doing all of these things in the European system, if once you come back and your degree is not recognized, you are going to be stuck. Okay, so you have to be very, very careful in selecting that option. As you see, people have been mentioning individual countries. That is the biggest problem. In spite of whatever the agents might be recommending you, you have to make sure and check if these criterias are met or not. I've personally visited a lot of med schools in Nepal, Bangladesh, and the condition is very poor. Infrastructure is definitely not that great. So be very, very careful. Check out the website, and after that, speak with some alumni, see the reality, see the quality of education, see the infrastructure. Except for few colleges, many of these colleges do not have a good infrastructure. If you're selecting a country which is lower in economy than India, okay, then you have to be very careful in terms of the quality output which you can expect from such country. I hope it makes sense. Okay, it is very, very important that you need to be very, very careful in selection of these countries. Any of the Commonwealth countries like, UK, Australia, New Zealand, please understand their admissions happen through a common application, and it is very expensive. An Australian program or a UK program via UCAT or UCAS will cost you around 1.5 to 2 CR. In that budget, as I said again, it's about who decides to study abroad, the ones who cannot afford an Indian education in 1 CR. Otherwise, obviously, the number of patients and exposure what I get. Mind you, those talking about Australia, India produces one Australia every year. So the amount of patients and exposure what we get in Indian hospitals, it is far more than any of these countries. So if you to spend 1 to 2 CR studying medicine in University of Melbourne or some UK university, please, I know you have to consider the ROI as well. Right? Be very very careful on those. Right? Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So I would not like to name individual countries. Many of them are just trying to find good about their own countries or probably the mindset which they have. I would always say, it is very difficult to comment on individual whether Malaysia is good or Bangladesh is bad. Well, I will say see these criteria, go on the World Directory website and find out about the college which your agent has promised to you and write it to the National Medical Commission. This is the college recommended in Malaysia. However, Malaysia does not offer internship to, let's say, foreign students or license to practice. Whatever is the information officially available on their websites, and then share it with the NMC and then check whether they'll allow you to write the FMG next exam or not. Until and unless those criteria are met, I would always suggest you to avoid such countries. I hope that makes sense. All right. It's not about a country is good or a bad. As I said, within a same country, what are the kind of institutions you have, whether those are good or bad. That is something which one needs to be very, very careful about. Okay. Whichever country you choose, right? So, for example, somebody was talking about Kazakhstan, right? So there are so many universities, so many this thing, but you need to see whether these universities are recognized public, but only 2018. As I said, if they do not have a 20 or a 25-year experience, does not make sense. 5-year program meaning does not meet the Indian criteria because you want minimum 54 months. So you need to be very, very careful about these criteria. And your best tool is this World Directory of Medical School, which actually solves majority of your concerns. Whichever country, even if it is India, because in India also, as you see, there are so many universities which are popping up on a daily basis. Tomorrow, let's say you decide to, you know, do study from, let's say, AIMS Gorakhpur, and tomorrow you decide that I want to write the USMLE or the UK exam and do PG in US or UK. Well, at this point of time, you cannot write the PG exams of America or UK if you study from uh, a newly opened institution. Okay, this is how it works. As simple as that. These are some criteria one needs to be very careful about. Absolutely. So our MBBS license from abroad valid in India, as you see the guidelines, below. After you have got the license to practice abroad, you have to clear the FMGE next examination, then go for a 12-month of internship, and then you get an unrestricted license to practice. So yes, if you clear and if you have a license to practice from a foreign med school and you actually met all the NMC criteria, you are NEET UG qualified, the transcript or the statement of marks, as we called, mentions that you have done 54 months of program, all the core clinical rotations, and separately you have done a 12-month of internship, and the teaching was in English. No problem, come back, write the FMG exam, then do the 1 year of internship, you will be allowed to practice in India. I hope this is clear. Just don't generalize all the universities in Russia, not necessarily good. All the universities in Georgia, not necessarily good. Many of them are as small as coaching centers. Okay, so be very, very careful in how you are deciding. All right. I hope it makes sense. Any other questions? I've covered majority of them. If I am missing any, see, this is what is a very fantastic question. If I do my MBBS abroad and PG in US, can I PG in UK? Can I come back to work? Come back to India and practice. Now, this is a very fantastic question, and this is where the agents usually fool students. If I do MBBS abroad now, when you say you are doing MBBS abroad, are you NEET qualified or unqualified? Because if you are unqualified, the whole statement that you do MBBS abroad, PG in UK, still you cannot come back and work in India. If I do MBBS abroad from a country which is minimum 54 months and meeting all the criteria, and then do my PG in UK and come back, still I have to write the FMG examination. Just because I have done PG in UK, do I skip this? No. Also, just for your information, agents do not give you true story. Go on the GMC website, General Medical Council UK website. The competition for every PG seat in UK, like in India, it is 10:1. In UK, it is 3:1, 2 to 3:1, meaning यूके में सीट्स फ्री में बढ़ नहीं रही है. सो मेनी ऑफ टाइम जो एजेंट प्रॉमिस करता है दैट फ्लैब करो, जीएमसी रजिस्ट्रेशन लो, रजिस्ट्रेशन यू गेट इट, बट यू वर्क एज अ जनरलिस्ट डॉक्टर, you don't work as a specialist. So if you don't work as a specialist, again, once you come back, you just have an MBBS degree. You are not a PG. Clearing FLAB exam, getting a GMC registration does not mean you have become a PG by default. ऐसे जनरल स्टेटमेंट अगर एजेंट आपको बोले कि एमबीबीएस अब्रॉड से करो, पीजी यूके यूएस से करो, कम बैक एंड वर्क इन इंडिया, एग्जाम एफएमजी नहीं देनी पड़ेगी, वेल ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं होता. दैट इज वेयर यू नीड टू बी वेरी वेरी केयरफुल. ऑलराइट, very good question. Does any hostel facility in abroad college? Now this is a very fantastic question. Whether you study in an Indian med school or in abroad, your expectation have to be equal, especially when you are considering smaller countries, Russia, Ukraine, and all of these, Kazakh, Kyrgyz. Well, go and check a government med school in whichever city you are living in India, whether it is Bombay, Delhi, Kolkata, Patna, Lucknow, Bhopal. आपके जो शहर में बेस्ट मेडिकल कॉलेज गवर्नमेंट की है, प्लीज चेक देयर हॉस्टल्स. You see their condition exactly similar will be the condition of hostels abroad. Our expectation is कि अगर abroad है तो hostels 5 star होगा नहीं. Your purpose is to go study and major, except for you go to US, Canada, UK, the expensive Caribbean, which are like 1.5, 2 crores, that kind of a budget. If you are going for a 15 lakh, 20 lakh, 40 lakh rupee fee, med schools in any of these countries, well, the hostels will be similar to what you see in India. In fact, what Indians promise, agents promise, the food, it is going to be very expensive if you don't know how to cook, if you go in such countries. Okay. I have not given NEET. Can I study MBBS abroad? Answer is yes, but you will not be allowed to come back and work in India ever. Okay. If you have not given NEET, you want to study abroad, all these universities will allow you, but it's a one-way route. You cannot come back and work in India. As clear as that. Okay. Can I do internship from our own country? That is exactly what I said. NMC clearly कह रहा है, there are two types of internship. Do not get into this agent terminology. 12 months of internship in the same foreign medical school, that is one internship, and second internship is after you complete the FMG examination. So all the students who go abroad to do MBBS will have to do 2 internships of 1 year each. Okay, no exception. आपको एजेंट कैसे भी पेपर पे घुमा के लिख दे कि नहीं ये तो 5.5 साल इंडिया के हैं, और abroad भी वैसे नहीं होगा. All the students who are in abroad, after doing this, after clearing FMG, and mind you, FMG pass rate is 15%. So if you don't clear in first attempt, second attempt comes after every 6 months, and after that a 1 year of internship. I hope that makes sense to you and you are very clear. All right. Practical exposure in MBBS is more in Indian colleges or abroad. As I said, very much in India, simply because of our population. We don't rely on 3D anatomy, models or mannequins. We actually have live patients in the remotest of med schools in India. So patient flow का issue India में कम है, okay, in the majority of government and the good private medical schools in India. All right. Exactly. That's a good question. Can I get a bank loan for MBBS studies? Well, all of these, banks in India offer us standard loans, which is, up to 20 lakhs, which is a standard study abroad loan. If you go anything beyond that, those are collateral based, and some NBFCs are offering it. But mind you, please आप अपनी गिनती करो, 5.5 साल के बाद सिर्फ डॉक्टर बनोगे, license exam, and after that, until you do PG, you're not earning much. So you have to be very careful when you do the financial calculation. It is 5.5 years, and then until you do PG, only and only then you can think about, uh, earning back the money or repaying money. So if you are planning to do MBBS against, putting your house or a farm on a collateral, please avoid. Choose better alternative, allied health career options. That is what I would suggest. I hope it makes sense. And yeah, any further questions? How many times? See, you can appear FMG exams multiple times, but mind you, until it is FMGE, the day NMC brings in the next examination, then there is restriction. Moment the NMC brings in the next examination, और अगर NMC के regulations next year लागू हो जाते हैं, after that, if you join the medical school in the year one, within 10 years, you have to clear the next examination and complete the internship. So if you don't do that, you are stuck, and you are stuck forever. So be very, very careful if you are thinking, because unfortunately, this was an election year. Otherwise, the government was planning to get next examination. 2021 से वो सोच रहे थे, इस साल भी लाने वाले थे. Last year draft भी आ गया था next exam का. So if the next exam comes into place within 10 years, you will have to appear this examination. The admission documents are standard, your college documents, your mark sheets of your 10th, 12th, some of them would definitely ask for domicile and stuff like that. So standard documents जो admissions के होते, challenge is not about that. Okay, challenge is not even about the documentation part. It is not as difficult as it is in India. Mind you, only thing you have to be careful is following the world directory. And very good question, are all foreign medical college in the WHO directory? वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन. अगर कोई कॉलेज WHO डायरेक्टरी में नहीं है, मतलब वो कॉलेज तो गलती से भी सिलेक्ट मत करो. वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन, बिकॉज इफ द कॉलेज इज नॉट देयर इन वर्ल्ड डायरेक्टरी, देयर इज नो हेड एंड टेल. आप पीजी इंडिया में, अब्रॉड वो कंट्री में कहीं पे भी नहीं कर पाओगे. सो इफ द एजेंट सेज नहीं, हमारी वाली कोई और लिस्टिंग फॉलो करती है, ही इज फूलिंग यू. All the colleges globally, including all the countries, 200 plus countries, all colleges are there in the world directory of medicine. Absolutely correct. अरे भैया, FMG exam ही नहीं दे सकते हो. The question is, even if I clear FMG exam, can I not work in India if I have not appeared NEET? That's a very, very clear cut, thing on the NMC website. NMC eligibility certificate. You will not be allowed to write the FMG exam itself. students, 900. See, over 900 students went to study abroad without the eligibility certificate. These students will not be allowed to write the examination, as simple as that. This is there on the NMC website. So if you are not NEET UG qualified, then if you come back and ask that I want to write the FMG, they will not be allowed. A person who is an Indian citizen be eligible to get admission in any med school, any foreign without obtaining eligible certificate, he or she will not be allowed to give the screening test examination. This year, the NMC actually put up all the names of 900 students who have been fooled by agents to study abroad without qualifying NEET UG, and now they cannot come back and work in India. So be very, very careful about these criteria. All right. Perfect. So obviously, if there are any further questions, you can reach out to our team. And as we said, we have the study abroad MBBS companion. Once you are part of that program, we will go much in detail with you, help you with identifying your university abroad, how to deal with the admissions directly with the universities, and obviously avoid all possible malpractices, payment of tuition fees, license exams and criteria. All of these will be clearly explained once you are part of the MBBS abroad companion with the Careers 360. All right. So, are there any more questions? All right. So, somebody is again asking, can you repeat the study in Australia, New Zealand part? Well, whether you study in Australia or New Zealand, first of all, these countries have very less medical schools. Okay. First thing first. All right. And most importantly, the admission criteria happen via common applications. And once you kind of get through via the BMAT or a GAMSAT examination into a med school in New Zealand or Australia, the tuition fees for international students are around 1.5 to 2 CR. If I have to spend 1.5 2 CR, I might as well spend that money in a good private med school in India partially and spend the partial money in PG in India. Mind you, we produce one Australia every year. The population is very less. New Zealand, it is said the veterinary medical professionals earn more than the human medical professionals. जहां population नहीं है वहां PG, I mean undergrad or PG करके what's the use? You need to study in a country where you have maximum population because that's your target audience. All right, that's where you learn the real medicine, and which is why all the Indian doctors are globally successful. Sheer experience and practical exposure what they have makes them the best globally. All right. Absolutely. In case of emergency, does the Indian embassy help? Yes, that is what we saw during the Ukraine saga, right? So Indian embassy was the one, and which is why you have to always get in touch with Indian embassy. Okay. So whichever country you decide, check, the Indian embassy rules and regulations, and the concerned person for education, and they are the ones who will help you. If there are any scholarships, checklists, all of financial assistance, everything is there. How to pay fees, what are the immigration rules, post graduation studies. They are very, very clear that everything happens in Russian language. Please check this very, very clearly. There are no employment opportunity for Indian students in Russia after completing their medical studies. Visa extension depends on the immigration rule. Indian embassy कह रही है. So if you are thinking I will do MBBS, settle in Russia, become a doctor in Russia, well, this is the reality. Who is informing you? Indian embassy. To be very, very careful. No, it all depends. Doing MBBS from one country is valid in another country. It all depends on that country's medical council rules and regulations. For example, if you do courses from some, uh, you know, colleges banned. So if you do some courses from some countries, um, those are not recognized in UK. Okay. So, for example, the question is, if I do MBBS from one country, can I practice in other? Well, it all depends. For example, if you do MBBS from any of these universities, you are not allowed to, study ever in UK. So, you see this Kazakhstan overseas medical qualification we do not accept. So, Georgia, Kazakh, Almaty, Kazakh, FEMI, all of these universities, if you have done a MBBS from, you will not be allowed to work in UK. Okay. However, the agent will not tell you this. So you have to be very careful about which countries you are selecting and what is your ultimate plan. All right. I hope that makes sense. All right. Any other questions anybody has? All right. So over to you, host. If there are any further questions, happy to answer.
Yes. So, Mr. Chirag, there is one more question. One student is asking
All
that
right.
is there any special provision for international students to solve their any personal problems or queries when they are in any of the colleges in abroad?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So the your best friend is two. One is the international office in that particular university, which have the officers who are responsible solely for the well-being of international students. And second is Indian embassy. In a country where you are studying, if there is an Indian embassy, the local Indian embassy officials always recommend you on day one when you decide to join a med school abroad to join a portal called as Madad, MADAD. Once you are part of the Madad portal, if any crisis happens in that country, you are already there in the embassy database and they will inform you about your next plan of action. So, yes, if you decide to study abroad, your local international office as well as the Indian embassy definitely will be helping you in this journey. Okay, what will you suggest between MBBS from India, from a private med school, or Russia? My criteria would be a private med school or a Russian med school which is minimum 25-year old. Okay, that is one big criteria. ECFMG approved. Okay, so that tomorrow you decide to study PG in UK or US, you are able to do that. And if it is a private med school in India, my sincere suggestion is, if you are deciding and spending that crore of a rupee, I would suggest with your family visit that college. If you are living in, let's say, in Gujarat, and if there's a college in Karnataka or Tamil Nadu, go and visit that college, see the infrastructure by yourself, speak to the students, understand the language, food, and the culture. If you have comfort, and only then take a decision. Mind you, this is a possibility in India. Imagine the scenario if it is Russia. I am a person, personally, I don't like an extreme cold weather. In Russia, the temperature goes in minuses, right? So whether you can manage that, also affordability. A Russian school might be at 25, 30 lakhs versus a private school will be 70, 80 lakhs to 1 crore, 1.5 crores in India. So all of these criteria put together will have to be taken into account, and that is when you decide, and also which private med school. Okay, well, the NIRF ranking has the list of private med schools, right? And as I said, visiting them personally, seeing the criteria, mind you, about last year, somewhere around September, October, lot of the colleges lost the qualifications, or let's say their selection, admission number of seats, just because they did not meet the NMC criteria. Many of them, many colleges across India, almost I would say more than 100 of colleges have got NMC notices. So even if it's a private med school in India, check out the quality and then take a decision. That is what I would advise. All right. Any other questions?
Okay, so Chirag, there is one more question which
Sure.
students are asking, that can any of the parent visit the university abroad, or they can travel in holidays to stay back? Is there any sort of a criteria?
No, there is absolutely no criteria. It's all about the economics and the cost. If the
Okay.
parents are interested, lot of US Caribbean med schools, have the tour, that before you join the university, you are invited to visit the campus, check out the campus, and then decide whether, you liking them. And that's a very normal thing, especially in Caribbean med schools, which are as good as a private med school, one and a half CR, where parents are invited to the, island, check out the weather, food, and, the infrastructure. And but then, as I said, it's the matter of affordability. The college does not say no. And when it comes to Caribbean, obviously people still speak English, but in Russia, in Kazakh, Kyrgyz, all of these smaller countries, the challenge is the language. So even if you accompany, your parents accompany, it is very difficult to judge anything, frankly, because of, for the student as well as for the parent, obviously the only medium is the agent, and that is where you have to be very careful about. But yes, there is no criteria. If they do want to visit the campuses, more than welcome. All the universities will be more than happy to invite you to the campus and check out the infrastructure and take a call.
There is one more question from a student who is saying that which country would you suggest best for the MBBS?
So as I said, since 2021, since the rule for NMC has changed, you cannot have a blanket acceptance that okay, Russia is best, or Kyrgyzstan or a Kazakhstan is not, or Georgia is not. Within every country, if they meet NMC criteria, so within Russia or all the European countries, majority of them have 6 year med school. So one criteria is taken care of. But then there are three more criteria: whether there is a hospital in the campus or not, which you can find out from the university official website, whether you are ready to learn the Russian language, and then write the license exam. Because only then you get an unrestricted license, and only then you'll be allowed to come back and write the next examination. So that's why, if I have to name a country, I cannot, simply because of the NMC MBBS abroad regulation. So we cannot just pick and choose that okay, these countries are blanket very much approved. Okay, except obviously for the Commonwealth countries like UK, Australia, New Zealand. But then the competition is very high there, and as I said, it is 1.5 to 2 CR is the expenditure. If you have to spend that much money, I might as well take admission in a private med school in India.
Okay, so that was very, very insightful from your side, and I would say that was. I hope that this is going to be fruitful for the students who were listening and who have got so many questions. I hope their queries must have resolved by now. So thank you so much, Mr. Chirag, for being here, and it was a pleasure having you. And thank you so much again. So yes, so far all of the queries of all the students are done. So
All
I
right,
believe if you have something to say and to tell students at in the end, then
sure,
over to you.
sure. All right. So thank you very much, students, and to be very patient to go through this entire session. So I just want to again reiterate what I mentioned at the start, that career in medicine is a long-term commitment, and right now due to the NEET UG examinations and the challenges what you've been seeing, well, I would only advise one thing is that you focus on what all things are in your hand, okay, because you cannot control the uncontrollables, all right, because even if you join a mid school tomorrow, the rules by your college or by the National Medical Commission, you don't know how frequently these things change, right? But it's ultimately your career. So I would always say to all my students that, take care of your mental health, speak to your friends, speak to your counselors, and uh, just work hard towards your ultimate goal. uh, it is no dream is small or big, or no career is small or big. We are here in a allied health uh, uh, online virtual fair. Explore the career options beyond MBBS. What all options are also there? Emergency medicine, physiotherapy, nursing. I mean, there's a huge global demand thanks to the VUCA world we are living in, and thanks to COVID and all the scenarios, right? So explore all the best possible options, and yes, taking drops 1 year, 2 year, 3 years ultimately might not be that solution. So you have to be very careful in what step you take, and whichever step you take, own up to that and just give your best. Irrespective of the outcome, your parents are always with you. Just remember that. So with this, I would like to end the session, and all the very best to each one of you, and happy to help you, guiding you in this journey at any point of time should you require our help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chirag. Thank you so much. So, for all the students, I would like to say our help counselor portal is there. You can go there and ask your queries personally. Okay. And I hope this session was fruitful for you, and all the very best to your future endeavors as well. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.